A jolt of lightning in the impending gloom. This is Mental Radio, the show with your mind in mind. I'm Shadow Stevens.
And Dr. Freeze, good afternoon. We have quite a unique day planned for us here today on Mental Radio. And Shadow, just briefly, last night you went to see our guest and studio guest right now, Yogi Raj, who's in our studio. We'll introduce in a second, and tell us, if you will, please, what you saw last night, what's to be expected, and we'll talk about so much.
Well, there's a lot of experience. There was a fire ceremony that was quite empowering, and Shivapat, I guess is what you call it, huh? The experience of consciousness, thoughtless awareness. Let's have Yogi Raj explain these things to us. But first, welcome to Mental Radio.
Thank you.
I have a question for you. As a holy man, what do you say to an atheist? Do you just let it go, or do you don't engage, or do you try? Are there things that you can say that that will open someone up to the possibility that, oh, geez, maybe there could be something bigger?
Through their sneering, through their cynicism.
Well, we just let the atheist be as he is. Let him go. Till the time comes when he evolves and he refines himself to experience extrasensory perceptions.
So does that usually come with some kind of pain?
Not necessarily. It comes by living life, by living a disciplined life, by living a purer life. The human soul, the human consciousness expresses itself through various layers of matter and mind to express its own divinity.
So why do you, tell me this, why do we use the word God?
Well, I don't use the word God. Others may use it. It's just something to pin your thoughts on, because God is so infinite. I'd rather call him he about whom we know nothing. Or I'd rather call him the non-being essentiality. Or he whose center is everywhere and circumference nowhere. Because God is well beyond the mind. And how can you describe something about a person who is a being who is beyond mind with a limited mind? You cannot do it.
So words fail you when you try to start articulating these things. I suppose it's very much like a higher awareness when you say that you've experienced samadhi, God consciousness. Putting that in words.
Ecstasy of expanded consciousness. An ecstasy of expanded consciousness. This ecstasy of expanded consciousness is one small aspect of he about whom we know nothing.
Then what is Christ consciousness? What is Christ consciousness?
Now, Christ consciousness, as we have in yoga, there are two states. One is self-realization and the other is God realization. Self-realization is Christ consciousness. And God realization is beyond, that is cosmic consciousness. Now, when you are in relativity, in the laws of cause and effect, you experience the vision and the apparitions of many sages and saints, and actual presences come before you as you refine your psychological system. As your extrasensory perceptions refine themselves, you're able to look into deeper dimensions and subtler dimensions.
And what's the method of that? How do you achieve that?
Well, you achieve that by the practice of yoga, by the practice of pranayama, by continuously detoxifying your system. You see, the body is carbon-based. And the practice of Kriya Yoga is to decarbonize the body. When you decarb the body, your body, mind, and spirit, the soul, gets purified. And by this purification technique, you are able to delve into deeper realms and subtler realms of the world. So this is called the Sabikalp Samadhi, where there is Vikalp, there is thought and form. which is self-realization. You realize yourself to be the consciousness in all souls. But there's still form attached to this. But when you get to the formless state of an ecstasy of expanded consciousness, this formless state is known as Nirvikalpa Samadhi, that state of ecstasy which has no thought and form. And this is beyond Christ consciousness. This is God consciousness.
I'm confused because a moment ago you said you don't use God as the word, so can you define the difference?
I am using it for people who are very used to using this word.
God consciousness, which is?
God consciousness, which is listen. Do you get it? So if I do this all the time, the audience won't understand what I'm talking about. So just as a nomenclature, just something to pin on, I use the word God. It's just a facility. It's a question of mere dialect. It's not an essential fact. Because God is not a subject of intellectual speculation or discussion. For thousands of years, people have been trying to prove God, and they have failed. Mm-hmm. For thousands of years, people have tried to disprove God. They have also failed.
Right.
Because God is not a subject of proving or disproving. He is of direct experience. And each one must validate this truth by his own experience.
So what is freedom of choice? What, as human beings, what do we have as freedom of choice?
Your freedom of choice comes when you transcend your mind. As long as your mind plays relativity, as long as your mind is thinking, it'll be biased by its past thoughts. It'll be biased by recalled memories. And therefore, to get beyond thought into a state of a still mind awareness, from that state of still mind awareness, you can make whatever choice you want. On the crystal clear table of your mind, can a pure, unbiased decision be made. As long as your thoughts sway your mind, it'll be biased. It'll pendulum swing to one side or the other. You have to transcend your thoughts, get to the still mind state, pure awareness, and then you can make your decision.
Now, what about people that have no idea what you're talking about? People that are just kind of lost in the illusion and don't understand the need for a higher power or the tremendous amount of discipline that it takes to say, I am going to apply myself every day to gaining some kind of conscious awareness and have these kinds of experiences that you're talking about. Do they just have to wait until something miraculously pings them?
No, there are simpler techniques. It's like a school, a university, the first grade, second grade, third grade, till you reach the PhD. So the first grade is they use by prayer. Then they do chanting, singing of hymns, chanting the holy name of Jesus or Krishna or Ram. This chanting helps them to focus their mind on a particular object. And this helps them to concentrate by prayer or by chanting. These are first stages. Then they get to higher states of, say, the rhythmic breathing of pranayam. Then they take more advanced stages after being purified and detoxified by pranayam and having a crystal mind. They take to the practice of concentration, which is bringing wayward thoughts repeatedly back to the focus of attention. This training your thoughts to concentrate on the object which you're supposed to concentrate is the practice of concentration. Then they go to a higher state when this effort is not required and the thoughts wander no more. Then the river of concentration opens up into the estuary of meditation, where you don't have to row the boat. The boat moves by the momentum of the past effort of rowing. That is meditation. And when the estuary expands into the ocean and the boat and the rower is lost in the ocean of bliss, that is samadhi, or the ecstasy of expanded consciousness. So it's a natural flow of human nature.
We had a guest on our show just recently who was talking about something similar, that when he saw God, as he put it, that there was so much ecstasy, so much elation, so much bliss that people simply couldn't handle that. Can you relate to that, or what people are fearing there?
When you see God in His completest truth, nobody comes back to tell the tale. Those who know it, tell it not. Those who tell it, know it not. So I will not speak about the final mysteries here, because they cannot be comprehended or spoken about. The moment I speak it, I limit God. I limit that ineffable, all-encompassing nothingness from which the everything is made. We can just point in that direction, but cannot talk about it or comprehend it in our limited minds, because He is beyond mind.
Okay, I have another one. How do you describe what is love? Because you get to this place where you go, everybody, love, and as if it's a tangible thing that you touch, grab, or do something with, other than to give, to be there for others. But when you, it's really easy to talk about love when you're talking about your family, your wife, your children, and being there for them, and the magnetism that you have. But when you get beyond that, and they say love God, what does that mean? How do you manifest love God?
Well, to grasp the concept, you have to start from the very base. There's a thing called lustful love, where a man or an animal lusts for a woman so that his desire of love, which is shrouded in lust and passion, is fulfilled. It's very raw. It's at the very animal stage, at the very passional stage. From lustful love, from thousands of years of evolution, it becomes passional love. This is the evolution of the seed of love, because the seed of love starts from lust and goes higher and higher. From passional love, as man evolves, it is the evolution of love. He evolves to the higher state and goes to emotional love. You see, the relationship, the congress of the sexual union is always there. But along with it, it gets more and more refined. Then people, instead of grabbing one another with animal force and relating, they tend to sit side by side and listen to some beautiful music. And then they relate. And it becomes from lustful love to passionate love to emotional love. This further refines and divinizes itself to devotional love, where people think of each other as a god and goddess, like in the Indian Tantra yoga you have, that it is the union of a goddess and a god, where you honor and respect one another when you relate. And that's when spiritual children are born, due to a holy union, a communion. A holy communion is devotional love. And then from devotional love, you go to a yet higher stage, which is divine love. So this is the mystery of love. This is the secret of love, that lust itself gets transformed and evolved into divine love. So nothing can be left out, nothing can be put in. It all culminates in the divine.
Does it ever stop at just the lust stage? Does it always progress into the divine love?
After it goes into divine love, you go over the top, and then there comes what is called the sacrifice. And out of a compassion, the second advent of Christ comes. This second advent is a pure overflowing of divine love, and this transforms itself into compassion. And because of compassion, the Kalki avatar descends on earth again to liberate and save humanity. The second advent of Christ comes, not because He wants anything from humanity, but He knows their suffering. He is the soul of their suffering. And out of a sheer compassion, wanting nothing in return, He comes again and again to liberate His children's soul and take them to the state that He already is. This is the grandeur and the majesty that love and lust end in the greatest of sacrifice. That's why people like the Christ and the Krishna and Shiv Goraksha Babaji are called, and the Buddha are called the great sacrifice, Mahabhinishkaran.
The thing that many people use who don't believe in a God or a higher power is they have trouble with the idea that there is so much pain, there is so much suffering. Why? That's the question. And then they go, if there's a God, if there is a higher power, why would he put beings through this?
Why do you want to blame God for your own actions, whose reactions you must suffer? Getting to the basic point of it, it is called the law of karma. The basic law of karma, an aspect of karma, is Newton's third law of motion, which is every action has an equal and opposite reaction. If you bump your head against a wall and cry that God punished you, it's not God's fault. You bumped your head hard, your head is bleeding. If you bump your head slowly, you'll get less pain. But instead, you see, if you plant a thorn tree and expect figs or mangoes from it, you cannot get it. So you must reap what you have sown. This is the law of karma, underlying the justice of humanity. So those people who are suffering had done such deeds in their past lives where they deserved this suffering. Those people who are rejoicing in wealth and in pleasure had done certain actions to earn that wealth or to do something which they deserve this pleasure for. Therefore, they are enjoying this pleasure. So the law of karma answers the suffering and the joy which prevails upon this earth. It is the law of all laws.
And the suffering generally triggers an action in people to reach for something more, to question everything and go, what do I have to do to get rid of this suffering? Okay, I'll do it. Meditate, pray, reach for, ask, and that's what happens, right?
Yes, this is what happens. Because your individual present explains your individual past. To each one is allotted his exact and proper task. To the truth is truth begot. The liar gets his own. So do no such actions whose reactions you would mourn. This is from my poem called Karma.
That makes sense. I like that.
So do the proper actions and get the proper results. Sometimes you get it in the next life. Sometimes you get it in this life. But get it you must, because every action has an equal and opposite reaction.
Is there a turnaround point for those that would listen and become enlightened, and at one point look back, or they can reflect back on their own perhaps bad karma in this life, and then of course improve it? Can they be enlightened?
Certainly. The turnaround point is this. Let's take a practical example.
Okay.
I owe you $1 million. Till I owe you $1 million, I'll keep paying it to you, because that's action and reaction, the third law of motion. Once I paid you $1 million, there comes the turnaround point. Then you don't have to fleece another fellow of $1 million or borrow it from him. Then get your own earning, make your own effort, and meditate on your own to get to higher states of ecstasy and awareness, where with that great peace which you have in your heart, you can share with humanity, not wanting anything in return. And that's where the human beings become superior and equal unto celestial and divine beings, where he keeps doing good for others with no return. So when it's not a barter, when it's not a trade, then you can supersede the cycle of action and reaction, give and take, night and day, joy and sorrow, life and death, because the balance of the universe is rooted in reciprocity. And if you want to get above the law of karma and reciprocity, of give and take, you must break the cycle of karma. You must break the reciprocity and go beyond it, and sacrifice yourself selflessly for the benefit of humankind.
Can you have abundance?
Oh, wait a minute. Hold that thought. I'm so caught up in this conversation, I forgot that we have to do commercials here, too. So let's do that.
Okay.
We'll come back in just a moment with an amazing conversation with Yogi Raj when Mental Radio continues in a moment. A show rich with unexpected treasures and bluebirds circling overhead. This is Mental Radio, the show with your mind in mind. I'm Shadow Stevens.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Freeze, and in studio with us today, Yogi Raj. Really enjoying where we're going to pick up now where we left off. But I do want to ask you, can I change horses midstream, Shadow Stevens, and ask Yogi Raj, are there aliens?
Yes, there are aliens. Those whom you think to be aliens are your very lunar ancestors, who thousands of years before you went towards celestial and higher dimensions in robes of light. These people whom you think to be aliens are actually the sages of the fire mist, the great rishis, the great luminaries like Abraham and Moses, and even more ancient would be Noah and Hermes and Enoch, who are none other than your ancestors who have enlightened themselves totally, and the Ancient of Days himself, God the Creator, the whole evolving creation itself. And these people whom in America you call aliens are the flesh of your flesh, the blood of your blood, the sweat of your sweat, and the light of your souls. They are here to guard your infant humanity to ever more expanded spheres of self-realization. I am not here talking about any doubtful things like UFOs, unidentified objects, or all that. I'm talking on a very clear-cut chapter, a very vision of my own, that people have seen the Christ. They have seen Moses and they have seen Krishna, these great masters. Thousands of people have seen them in robes of light, giving them visions and apparitions. And please don't call them aliens. They are the very light of your souls.
Beautiful.
And they guide the infant humanity to higher states of divine realization.
I have a question for you. When people are beaten down and in despair and in disease, staying positive and having a happy, optimistic, hopeful attitude is really difficult. And it's hard to make decisions of, now I need to meditate, now I need to apply myself. They're consumed or crippled by their minds. What do you do in a case like that?
And as you come out of each grueling bout, all beaten and broken and scarred, just have one more try. It's dead easy to die. It's the keeping on living that's hard. And that's what I tell my guys. I said, don't give up, guys. Behind every cloud is the golden rim. A silver lining, a golden rim. So if you persevere and don't give up, that is the majesty of life. That is the valor. That's what a man should be when he expresses himself in this determination. Nothing is really impossible. We must give the world this courage. We must stand together in courage in times of joy and in sorrow.
And can a person have abundance, prosperity, and still attain freedom?
A person can have abundance and prosperity and still attain freedom. But those who have attained freedom are so sick of their prosperity and their abundance, which they've had thousands of lives back, that they discard this luggage and go as simple as the smile of a child through the eye of the needle towards divine realization. That's why when Jesus said it's easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the gates of heaven. By this, he didn't mean that you shouldn't be rich. You shouldn't have abundance. You should. But you should not be attached. The key word is you should not be attached to that wealth.
But isn't it seductive?
What is?
The abundance and wealth,
The wealth.
and having it seems to be seductive. That you have and then you feel like you need more. And then I'll be happy if I have even more.
Then that stage is not for liberation. Because in that stage, you still have desires. And for you to be totally liberated and get into moksha, into pure salvation, you should be desireless. Desireless and free, burning in purity like a silent divine fire.
Yet with appreciation for your abundance and your wealth.
You can appreciate your abundance in your wealth and the abundance and wealth of the world. Why not? But you shouldn't be attached to it. If you have it one moment and a thief comes and takes it the next moment, there shouldn't be any ripple of thought in your mind's lake. It should make no difference to you. So you should be in a state of desirelessness. The greatest abundance that a person can have is having that abundance. He could be in a state of desirelessness. Like there was an American saint here who was with Paramahansa Yogananda. His name was Luther Burbank. He was a multimillionaire and he donated all his estate and property. You find many Americans like this. They get to that stage and they just feel like donating and they keep giving. Bill Gates has done that in billions of dollars. So you see, when they go over the top, there's another emotion that comes in the human soul and psyche. That's to give. And seeing others happy, they get a great thrill.
Oh, yeah.
It's a huge thrill when you see little children in Africa starving, when you see their ribs disappearing, when you see that they have no teeth due to lack of calcium, their teeth appearing in their mouth. You've done such a job. Of course, there is a subtle ego in it, but it's all basically humility and a joy of giving others. So when you live for others and not yourself, that's the time for you to be liberated.
I agree. Very good.
How would you describe the way the cosmos works? The microcosm, the macrocosm, dimensions,
Good
multiple
question.
dimensions, like 11 dimensions, or 3, or 4, or 9, or how do you put that in words, or can you?
You can put it in words, but it's no use for you because what will you do even if you know it? I mean, God's running the cosmos. We are little people here with our tin-ticking minds. I mean, it's a huge, phenomenal thing. And it does happen. It's given in Genesis. I have written the autobiography of a self, where I begin before the cosmos starts. I have said, boundless lay the self. Existence in the truth of the self, spread beyond infinity, from eternity to eternity. The self in his majesty did reign. This is before creation. And then it begins with the explosion of the nuclear subatom, called the great sound, the sound of Omkar, the light sound explosion. This is how creation began. In our philosophy too, and in the modern quantum physics, and science has given the beginning of creation and the expansion of creation. So the beginning of creation we call Brahma, the first of the Trinity, the creator called Brahma, the creator meaning the expanding one. Then we have the second of the Trinity called Vishnu, the all-pervading one. And after it is all-pervading, the creation gets into the big crunch, which we call Shiva, the ultimate dissolution, the dissolving of the whole of creation. So this is the great Trinity of Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
Well, we have to take another break, and
We have many more questions.
we have endless questions, and I'm sure that we'll find a way to get our way through all of this stuff. And welcome back to the show that keeps your mind in mind. I'm Shadow Stevens with...
Good afternoon. This is Dr. Freeze, Yogi Raj. Thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you in our studio today.
And we were asked to mention briefly of the experience that I had last night, this Shivapat, in which Yogi Raj sits and has everyone facing him and imparts this kind of conscious experience where I'm sitting on the floor and my body is achy and everything is, and he said, I will clap my hand and impart this awareness. And when he clapped, I wasn't uncomfortable anymore. And you gaze at the face and hold it without blinking. And there was a shift that happened in the face of like morphing, taking on different appearances of different, like Moses and Jesus and so on. I'm not making this up.
Can you explain
This sounds
that?
like one of those things. It's like a magic trick, but it's quite remarkable.
So Yogi Raj, can you please explain that, how that happens, and what did he actually see? What transformation did Shadow experience?
You see, what happens is that I give what is called my soul consciousness of a enlightened awareness. So if the yogi is enlightened, or if he is in a state of samadhi, he should be able to transfer his state, his his ecstasy of expanded consciousness to the disciples or to sincere seekers or to a congregation who would like such an experience. And what I gave, I will define to you. Let's say I'm the consciousness and the disciples or the seekers are the mind. I define it this way. If any mind is attuned to an undifferentiated consciousness, that is of the Master, if any mind is attuned to an undifferentiated consciousness, then that mind shall become that consciousness to the degree of its attunement with that consciousness. And that's what happened when you attuned to my state of samadhi, my no-mind state, my state of knowingness. Your thoughts disappeared. You went into a thoughtless state of profound, still mind knowingness. So what you went into is Shiva path, is when the Master takes the disciple into a thoughtless state of still mind knowingness, or when the Master takes the disciple into his soul consciousness of a thoughtless awareness. This is what you experienced at the outset, and this experience carried on, shifting you to the no-mind state of a knowing awareness. Now, when you went into the fourth and fifth dimensions of the knowing awareness, you started seeing changes in the aura around the body, which are subtler dimensions. The aura always exists around every body in all human beings. Normal people have it small. The Masters have it huge and big. Normal people have 1 or 2 colors or 1 color. Masters have 5 colors or all the 7 colors of the spectrum. After you see the aura, as your mind steadies into a more heightened awareness, you begin to see remembered experiences of that Master's past lives. So if you see the face of Moses along with his face, or morph into his face, or the face of Sri Yukteswar morph into the face of this Master, either that Master has been a close associate of that great soul in his past life, or the Master has been in this life a portion of that soul, called a Nirman Kaya, because the yogi, great masters like Sri Yukteswar, Christ, Krishna and Moses are able to produce more than one body and mind and work in 2 places or 10 places at the same time. So Moses or Christ or Krishna, Buddha, Yukteswar, Lahiri Mahasaya, the Yoga Avatar, can have 10, 20 or 100 bodies and minds identical to themselves, working in different planes and different heavens and different phenomena at the same time. This is what was happening. This was a very advanced lesson of educare, of education. This is true educare, means to bring in the light. In Greek, educare means bring in the light. Oh. And we brought in the light, and everybody saw the light and the aura. And that's why I took a feedback. When 99% people see it, the one who doesn't see it is the one with a tense mind. Therefore, the feedback is taken. It is given. And to educate people into higher dimensions of their spiritual essence, the Shiva path, Shakti path and Prana path techniques are projected onto the audience by the living Master.
And are you going to be able to do this on your webcast as well? Can people actually experience this if they tune into the Agape webcast?
Oh, yes, we should mention that. Friday webcast with Michael Beckwith of Agape, and the debut of the DVD Wings of Freedom. That's this Friday, and that is where? What is is that at the Agape website?
It's the Agape Live premiere of Wings to Freedom documentary of Yogi Raj's journey in the Himalayas towards his meeting with his spiritual master known as Babaji. That's how I pronounce it. Babaji. And that happens Friday, August 12th at 7 p.m. Now, to watch online, you just go to Agape Live. That's AGAPELIVE, agapelive.tv/wings. One more time, agapelive.tv/wings. And join in person, Agape International Spiritual Center. If you want to be there physically, is this right? The address is 5700 Buckingham Parkway in Culver City. Okay, now after the screening, Yogi Raj will share experiences of enlightened awareness with the crowd and the viewers, and Dr. Michael Beckwith will join Yogi Raj for a lively discussion of how to apply ancient yogi teachings to modern living.
Which brings us up to 2012 and the transition we're going through, the awakening. Can you elaborate a bit about 2012?
Well, 2012, according to me, is not the end of the world, as the Mayans suppose it is. According to their calendar, they say that the world ends or it comes to an end or there'll be great catastrophes, which no doubt there will be. But according to me, this is the end of one cycle and the beginning of a new cycle.
Which is a positive thing.
It's a positive thing. It's a mixed bag with catastrophes, holocausts, and the changing of the guards of the great masters, the great spiritual leaders. 5,000 years ago, 3,102 before Christ, a great phenomena, a divine being appeared called Lord Krishna. 2012 will complete this 5,000-year-old cycle. This Lord Krishna, or Christ, will have his second coming, the second advent, from 2012. Christ is variously, the second advent is known as the coming of the Kalki avatar, the coming of the Maitreya Buddha, and the second advent of Christ.
And what does that mean?
This is all the same thing of the coming of this great being. The question asked is whether he will come in person. My answer is that his spirit shall pervade humanity and take them to higher levels of consciousness and self-realization. This period will be beginning of the changing of the guard, where symbolically the four horsemen will come on their four horses to change the guard. The first will be the ancient world teacher who is called the Maitreya Krishna, or the Kalki avatar, whom we know in the Christian world as the second advent of Christ. He is now the present world teacher. The true spiritual world teacher is the Christ, variously known as the Kalki avatar and the Maitreya Buddha. He will hand over the reins to his successor, to no less a person than the Yoga avatar Lahiri Mahasaya of the Kriya Yoga systems of the Self-Realization Fellowship, who was mentioned in Autobiography of a Yogi. So Yoga avatar, the divine being, will be the next successor and world teacher for the future cycle.
But that's a consciousness
yes,
thing, not a person.
The
not
person,
like a leader.
The person can, it is very easy from them to materialize from a consciousness to a living being in form.
By hosting a body. I mean, how does that
They
happen?
could host a body, they could materialize a body. I just finished this thought. Then the other person, who is the ideal king. The ideal teacher always is accompanied by the ideal king. Now the ideal king will be none other than the Lord Vaivashvat Manu, who is variously called Enoch or Melchizedek. So this Lord Vaivashvat Manu, the ruler of the past root race, the seventh root race, will hand it over to the next Manu, the next king, the ideal king, who is none other than the Jnana Avatar Sri Yukteswar of Autobiography of a Yogi, the Guru of Paramahansa Yogananda. So the successors of Lord Vaivashvat Manu and Maitreya will be Sri Yukteswar as the world king and Lahiri Mahasaya as the world teacher. The four horses that they ride, the Maitreya Krishna, or the second advent of Christ, shall be riding on a white horse. Enoch, or the Lord Vaivashvat Manu, shall be riding on the brown horse. The successor of the world teacher, that is the Christ, is Lahiri Mahasaya, who will be riding on the light pale brown and yellow horse. And the successor of Enoch or Vaivashvat Manu, who is Sri Yukteswar will be riding on the black horse. Now these 4 horses of the apocalypse, which is mentioned in the Bible, are representing the 4 major root races of this world, which shall be looked after and evolved into the perfect race 700 years from 2012.
That was going to be my question. So from the time of 2012, you're saying a 7-year period?
700 years.
Oh, 7
Okay,
years.
so this is not something that I have to personally be looking forward to.
Which is, we cannot have the personal ego here. It's a whole world disciple on the move. It's a world movement, and you will have died many times and been born before you come into the first new race. It is you who are the actual 6th sub-race or the 6th sub-civilization who will become the 7th root, the 6th root civilization 700 years ago in the place of California, where the new race will be born.
Really?
Where I'm talking to you now. Here you will be 700 years hence as the perfect race of the Buddhas, the Avataric race or the race of the Siddhas. The perfect humanity will be born here. The evolution starts from 2012. But now, in between the physical manifestations of the Christ or the Vaivashvat Manu, or the Moses who is Sri Yukteswar, and the Abraham who is Lahiri Mahasaya, these physical apparitions can appear and bless individuals all around the world. But it is their choice. And this nobody can dictate to them, and no fortune teller can say this as to they will come at such and such a time. But if you pray for them, if you meditate with an open heart, with humility, you shall have their blessings. With and without form, their spirit shall pervade the whole of the human race from 2012 to 2700, where you will be born again as the perfect humanity. Clairvoyance, clairaudience, all the powers, all the siddhis. No telephones, only telepathy, all clairvoyance. So you will be it's you.
Will it be us the same people?
You, us, the same people. Yes, you will be evolving, your souls. You are destined to be the perfect race. Bravo and congratulations.
Well, I think on that note,
I love it, Yogi Raj. Right on, man.
we should mention that your book, The Lightning Standing Still, can be ordered on your website, which is hamsayoga.org. How do you, it's spelled H-A-N?
H-A-M-S-A.
H-A-M-S-A .org. Hamsa
Yoga.
Hamsa Yoga. Yes.
hamsayoga.org.
Mm-hmm.
And this is quite amazing. This book looks really astonishing. I've ordered my copy, and I'm very excited about reading it. The Lightning Standing Still at hamsayoga.org.
Also, we'd like to talk about the Joshua Tree Retreat happening with Yogi Raj on October 21st through the 24th out in Joshua Tree here in California. Learn advanced techniques of Kriya Yoga, receive continuous healing Kundalini transmissions, highlight Dreamweaver, where Yogi Rajas enters dreams of all participants to clear negative blockage from some subconscious. Can you tell us what that's all about? In a group situation, you actually go into the dreams of people?
This is what the people say. This is what the people have experienced. That the majority of them have seen me in their dreams, and I have cured their maladies, anything from a hip dislocation, paining of the spine, getting disorders in the stomach. But this is all done by masters, in the thing called the Dream Weaver, where the fabric of their karma is woven with shreds of light and DNA. And those shreds are taken, the tapestry, where the light has faded. You put in a fresh thread of karma. You improve their lot. As a service to humanity, you remove the obstacles which come in the path of their spiritual evolution. And this I do in a thing called the Dream Weaver, where I multiply my body and my mind, enter their dreams, remove the obstacles so that they can further their spiritual evolution. This is what is done.
Okay, that's really neat.
I'd like to do that.
Well, coming out to Joshua Tree. Also, I want to give your websites as well. The Yogi Raja's websites are how we just gave hamsayoga.org. And also at YouTube, it's youtube.com/hamsayogi. Also, you can call the hotline at 866-YOGI-RAJ. That's 866 YOGIRAG, or the numbers are 866-964-5400. 4725. 866-964-4725.
It's been an honor having you here. I really appreciate the time. It's been a stimulating, enlightening conversation, and I can't thank you enough.
And I want to talk with you some more at some time. We're not on this particular show at this time because we're almost out of time, but please feel free to come back to our show. We'd like to have you on again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Raj.
God bless.
Thank you.
Thank
God
you for your
bless
time.
Thank you.
गोरक्ष गोरखनाथाय शिव शम्भो नमाय शिव शम्भो नमाय शिव गोरक्ष गोरखनाथाय